Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, hello everybody, Militia Man and Crew. Hope everybody's had a great week. I'm having a great week. Tomorrow is another day. Hopefully you guys will have a nice cup of coffee or whatever you guys like to drink. Freedom Forge coffee. I'm stuck to the Valor, but I think I'm going to change it up. I'm going to go to something a little more light, just to make sure that they have a lot of products. They have a lot of things. They have Dr. Heal's stuff. Check their site out, but try that coffee because it's awesome. One of the things I do in the morning, I check all the marketplaces and I look at what's going on in the world, and I notice, obviously, I think everybody has. Gold's been on a tear. Silver's been on a tear. And Noble Gold is one of those places that you should check out too. Gold's gone mainstream. We're seeing it everywhere and prices keep climbing. Every day, more and more Americans are catching on to the power of gold. But how do you actually take advantage of it? How do you invest in a way that's safe, simple, and built for the long run? That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. Noble Gold specialists are trained to help investors like you go from confused to confident, from wondering what's next to knowing exactly what to do. Whether you're looking to roll over an old 401k into a gold IRA, or you want physical coins and bars delivered right to your home, Noble Gold makes the process simple, safe, and stress-free. You'll get a step-by-step guidance, transparency pricing, and US-based service from a team that's handled over 2.5 billion in precious metal transactions. With Noble Gold Investments, protecting and growing your wealth isn't just their job, it's their commitment. So visit noblegoldinvestments.com today to claim your free wealth protection kit. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Noble Gold, helping you build a stronger future. Hey everybody, Militia Man and Crew. We're just going to jump into some articles. I think that you guys have really paid attention and watched and have seen how this progression is coming around. I have some articles here like this one, for instance, Central Bank of Governor. We have received 80 applications to establish digital banks. That's a big play. Central Bank has received 70 to 80 applications to establish a digital bank. It says they can only be licensed according to a set of criteria based on market studies and the nature of the business and experiences of the countries where the number of digital banks usually does not exceed 2, 3, or 4. So 2 to 4 banks. So they're going to isolate. And remember, Oliver Wyman's back wall, banks needed to be ready. Al-Alaq's talking about today, 70 to 80 applications. And they're probably going to weed it out to 2, 3, or 4 banks. The global norm is 2 to 4 banks for a country to have this, okay? It says, therefore, we begun vetting processes to determine requirements in a way that ensures the licenses are granted to entities with the best qualifications. He emphasized, we're now in the final stages of announcing the banks that will be licensed. Before making the decision, we engaged Oliver Wyman to review the criteria set by the central bank based on the licenses that will be granted. It says the aforementioned company has been studying this criteria for over the past few days, so they're hot and heavy on this. Having been preoccupied by the banking reform file, the comprehensive plan, and they believe this will receive a final answer within the next few days. And to me, that's obviously quite interesting. So keep this in mind. Article is in Patreon. You get my comments on that. There's a snippet with this. It talks about the request for digital banks. It talks about the scrutiny process. It talks about Oliver Wyman's review. Al-Alaq's quote, which is the central bank received these 70 to 80 requests to establish a digital bank. And then we're now in the final stages, key points. And broader ties to this. It has relationship to the talk about the liquidity, the anti-money laundering laws, diagnostics for that 20 to 30 billion excess with the BSRS and Sudani's KPMG meeting. So it ties in a lot of stuff. So take a look at that and see what you think. I think it's pretty powerful to know that these things are in the news. This article today about progress on the Grand Fa port projects increasing. Projects are increasing. It says the advanced customs declaration system will begin next December in a move aimed at regulating import operations and combating currency smuggling. This is a good article. If you think about it, if you tie it in and study it, you're going to realize that what they're doing is projecting into the future, and what the projects are going to be doing is going to be helping them reduce currency smuggling. That it goes directly towards their real effective exchange rate in the long run. Basically, they're setting the stage for mega infrastructure. Well, they're using terms like this in the news these days, mega infrastructure. So this isn't just a little deal. It's pretty powerful. It's actually, I don't know. I mean, I'm getting very excited about what's happening, because I think there's so many things out there that are tying this together that we've never seen before. And it's a bigger web. It's not just about one country. And I've said this over and over again. Here's this. The KRG exports over 2.1 million barrels of oil to Siam port, acting minister confirms. It says over 2.1 million barrels of oil have been exported through the Kurdistan region to Turkey's Siam port so far, with an average of about 190,000 barrels delivered by the SMO at SOMO over the last 11 days. It says the Iraqi government has pledged to provide an additional 15,000 barrels a day if, in fact, that the Kurds are short. So that's basically it. 65% of the salaries paid by the government to the Kurdistan region come from oil revenues, explaining that parts of the proceeds from SOMO sales goes to Baghdad, while revenues from other companies are placed in a special account to be distributed at the end of each month with the KRG approval. And it goes on and talks about current export agreement will remain in effect until December 31st, but the exports will continue beyond that date until a new deal is reached. So there's, at this stage, that says they're not stopping. And we know that there's support from the U.S. that would like to see that to take place. And obviously there's supposed to be a deal by July end of July of 2026 that the Kurds can still make a deal with them into the future. And they could do that today, they could do it tomorrow, they could do it every day between now and then. And so ultimately, they're even saying oil is going to keep flowing and the revenues are going to keep growing. This article here is the government advisor. The Securities Commission ended market chaos and contributed to regulating national investment. It says the Securities Commission has achieved important results during its journey, most notably the establishment of an institutional market system, which is a necessary step to build a solid financial market. The Securities Exchange Commission market was properly established through a partnership between the state and the private sector, relying on strong tools, most notably the Iraqi Stock Exchange, and financial oversight body that formed a fundamental basis for embodying the state's philosophy in this partnership. Okay, these guys are long-winded, but the bottom line is the Securities Commission is a regulatory body for the markets. The new ISX and the way the system's going to work is that they're going to be fully reporting. All stock traders are going to know what fully reporting means. I think if you don't, you should know what you own and look it up. But it goes on and says the Commission has future responsibilities that align with Iraqi economic philosophy based on partnership between the state and private sector. So there's a focus on partnerships, enabling the government to regulate the market and maintain its competitiveness. So they want to be competitive in the marketplace. And then back to the Prime Minister welcomes HKN's investment partnership. Okay, I don't think everybody paid attention to this, but there's more to the story that meets the eye. But the bottom line is that this partnership is giving confidence to the global financial system, to all the biggest financial entities in the world, is that people are putting up the money to do business in Iraq. And you have HKN, you have Western Zargos, and even Hunt Oil, probably in these meetings. My understanding is they were. But this is only focused on HKN. It says Al-Sudani welcomed the investment partnership of HKN Company in Iraq, considering it a positive indicator that reflects the growing confidences in the investment environment environment. This step comes as an extension of agreements recently concluded with the American companies in various sectors, which contributes to strengthening bilateral economic relations between Iraq and the United States. And the Prime Minister goes on and expresses his appreciation for the role of HKN in completing the recent agreement to export oil from the Kurdistan region of Iraq. So it's giving emphasis to HKN for completing this recent agreement. That's pretty big because that's an isolation. That's focusing in on that specific company. If you guys know who HKN is, and if you remember who Ross Perot was, and you know where Texas is, that's a big thing. It is, okay? The reopening of the pipeline is an important milestone in developing the energy sector, strengthening sovereignty and fair management of wealth. Fair management of wealth is exactly what their agreement's about. That's what their Constitution 112 is about. Management of wealth, ensuring the Iraqi people their constitutional rights. That's me saying constitutional rights. Benefit from the national resources. There it is. Stressing this achievement represents an important milestone for Iraq and all Iraqis. Big. Find this one in patreon.com. And these articles, you guys, really are short and sweet, but they have such an impact on what our investment's about. It really is. Okay, so all of a sudden, out of the blue, we've talked about this. Digital dinar, we talked about the Agora project, the Bank of International Settlements, and then there's another new name for it too. I just can't get it. It's E something. But you know me, I will find it again and probably bring it up. But it doesn't matter to me because they're involved. I think the symbiotic relationship has already been exposed between the Bank of England giving a kudos for Iraq to join the Bank of International Settlements. Okay, stablecoins could generate an additional 1.4 trillion in demand by 2027. Analysts at JP Morgan predict that the increased adoption of stablecoins will generate an additional demand of approximately 1.4 trillion by 2027, provided that sufficient foreign investors seek to hold these digital assets, according to a note issued by the bank on Tuesday. So this is a couple of days ago. It says this potential surge in demand for the dollar, not dinar, indicates the growing importance of the cryptocurrency market in the traditional financial system. The bank believes that the expanded use of these currencies will not accelerate the de-dollarization of the global financial system. Rather, it may strengthen the U.S. currency's position as the cornerstone of international finance. That's powerful, man. It's really big. Key figures are, JP Morgan estimates the current size of the stablecoin market at approximately 260 billion, expecting it to rise to 2 trillion. I don't know, that's quite a few multiples of what it is today, you guys. It says it explains that approximately 99% of stablecoins, such as Tether, are pegged to the dollar at a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning that if foreign companies or households convert their savings from local currencies into stablecoins, this will directly increase the demand for the U.S. dollar. The Eurozone finance ministers are scheduled to discuss Thursday how to support the development of euro-denominated stablecoins, so they're involved as well. It goes on and says it might be a little bit too early to say whether optimistic expectations will materialize, but if they do, dollar inflows tied to stablecoins could be significant. So the challenges could be there. It says he added that given that approximately 99% of the total supply of stablecoins is pegged, 99% is pegged 1-to-1 to the U.S. dollar. The growth of this market inherently implies increased demand for the dollar. Come in and see this. It's in patreon.com. There's a snippet in here that talks about committee examines digital payment systems. It talks about WTO members, international organizations such as the World Bank, Bank of International Settlements, finance services of the arm of the Organization for the Standardization of ISO 2C68, and the United Nations Capital Development Fund, which is the UNCDF. It talks about participants emphasize the importance of competition and transparency in payments and remittance services markets. There's an interesting article out too about the WTO on on the 1st of October, talking about remittances and digital currencies. So anyway, interesting tie-in with this one is that remember when we talked about the WTO and Australia's accession to Australian support for Iraq's secession. This particular snippet comes from the WTO article, and basically it's talking about members suggested possible follow-up discussions building on the information shared during this thematic session. The chair, Mr. Will Nixon of Australia, encouraged members to continue to deliberate on the topic and consider member-driven responses in line with the general agreement on trade services. Okay, so why is that important? Well, this gentleman was the gentleman that was supporting Iraq's accession to the WTO. That's where it comes from. So anyway, tying some of these articles that we have in, that's why the value is so important, I think, for folks that come in that are all over the internet. If you guys understand that what we bring in is allowing you the ability to get information like this and be able to read it for yourself, and you decide, because that's what I'm doing. I'm deciding that I like what I'm seeing. And you're more than welcome. Come see us. Article, Masroor Barzani announces an agreement to enact an oil and gas law. Wow, it's probably politically motivated. But we're going to see this. It says, Kurdistan Regional Government Prime Minister Masroor Barzani announced on Wednesday an agreement with the leader of the National Wisdom Movement, Ammar al-Hakim, that the tripartite agreement, which was the oil deal, the historic one, with the tripartite, which was the region, the center, and the IOCs, that included HKN. The Kurdistan Regional Government, Barzani's office, it says, we agreed with the head of the National Wisdom, Hakim, we talked about that, starting point for agreeing on a federal oil and gas law. That right there is really big. They discussed the reform programs. They talked about the Kurdistan Regional Government, the Ranaki Project. They talk about a lot of things. The last thing he says, though, is that he states, our shared hope remains with the upcoming parliamentary elections will mark the beginning of a new phase of understanding and resolution of contentious issues, ensuring the protection of the rights of the components, of all components. So that means all the rights of the citizens. Look, this is going to be talking about Article 112, where they share management and the national wealth. We talked about that. That's constitutional stuff, and they already talked about that. That's fascinating, because that's what they're talking about. This is coming from the Kurdistan region and the government, and they're hopefully adhering to what they believe to be a powerful situation. And so this agreement is going to be a model for the oil and gas law. And it's also going to be interesting enough to know that if they're all in advanced stages, and you got Barzani, you got Hakim, you got al-Sudani, all of them are in play to proceed and use the model that they used for this historic 18-year agreement. And that's fascinating. So basically, I'm getting at all the things that we were talking about. I'm going to try and see if I can tie this in a little bit. Look, in tying in economic moves into the global financial web, a lot of these things are big wins. If al-Sudani gets a win, and then Kurdistan gets a win, IOCs get a win, and even the political parties get a win, everybody's happy. I think al-Sudani has been brilliant, and in his role in the sense of bringing everybody together on the same page. I don't care if it's the World Bank, the IMF, the WTO, WCO, all of the different acronyms. He's got the Sunnis, the Kurds, the Shia. They're pretty much on board with him. Evidence of that. And that's why you see the coordination framework kind of barking quite a bit. But ultimately, though, the support is, if they get the oil and gas law to align with this last agreement and that it works because it was successful, we haven't seen that before. And that's going to be a big thing. And what I see, and I think the data supports, is that this is wide open. They could do it before the elections. And they're going to use that. And you know that Iraq's political side, if they find something that's important they can run on, the season's open. It's already been started. I think it was on October 3rd. So campaign season's wide open. And so if this is something that is going to gain them traction, if they're on board with it, they're going to use it. Okay, this last week's kickoff, let's call it, oil exports restart, unlocking revenue. The more oil they pump into Europe supports the value of their currency. So basically, after 30 months of legal drama, Iraq's Federal Oil Ministry, KRG, and International Oil Majors inked a tripartite deal on September 25th. Exports from Kurdistan resumed via the Turkey pipeline, and as of by October 8th, 2.1 million barrels were shipped, averaging about 190,000 barrels a day. Think about it. I already mentioned the Swiss, digital commodities, things are in play. I really believe that, you know, we're open for a surprise, hopefully. I'm hoping for a nod from al-Sudani, not necessarily al-Sudani, but al-Awlaq, and having a nod for the joining of the BIS. And then again, so all of this points towards, like the Port of Fao, for instance, currency smuggling, aligns with the WTO. Australia talking about support for Iraq. They're invoking it. They're talking about digital currencies. All of these things. What is the global tie-in? Re-entering global energy markets, stabilizing revenues that fund 65% of the KRG salaries, shared with Baghdad. Basically, this deal ends the freeze on the money side of things. It opens up the budget. It helps Turkey, pays them $1.29 a barrel. Cross-border finance, all of these things. Let's see, what else? KRG produces about 250,000 barrels a day. We already know about that. The Fa Grand Port surges, building the trade superhighway. They're talking about mega infrastructure. Mega turn points in the Asia-Europe's logistic bridge, slashing reliance on neighbors like Iran and Jordan. We can expect probably anywhere from 100,000 jobs direct and upwards of close to 1.5 million or more indirect. So they're talking about Turkey's a key partner. The Port of Fao represents a real launch towards promising economic future for Iraq, transforming the dream into a tangible developmental reality. And why does this matter? Oliver Wyman's involvement screams global vetting. Investors reduced risk, more foreign direct investment. And what else are they doing? Basically, I have to say, one of the biggest, probably the biggest things is going to be the central bank. They've got 70 to 80 applications for digital banks. 2 to 4 will get licenses. And basically, it's post Oliver Wyman's review, which was on the 30th. And now we're seeing the final stages, a key point by al-Awlaq, because he stated, quote, "We're now in the final stages of announcing the banks to be licensed. Oliver Wyman reviewed our criteria, and we expect the final answer in the coming days." I think that just kind of wraps it up for me, you guys. So anyway, I hope you guys like the content, and I hope that we can see you guys tomorrow too, because I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be more powerful information that we get from Super Samson. And all of you guys that have come in recently and are enjoying the live stream that I put out last night, thank you very much for all the kind comments. It was a wonderful talk. I'm going to do it again on a regular basis, probably once a week. And I think that's going to be sometime around Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's the hope that we keep to that schedule, but we'll make sure that you guys are aware of it. But thank you very much for being with us. If you like my content, hit that like button and subscribe. And once again, thank you for helping me out to keep the crew running with PayPal. It makes a big difference, you guys. There's a lot of hard work here. Have a great weekend. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.